Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the virtual design public hearing for the I-64 Hampton Roads Express Lanes, Hampton Segment 4C. My name is Nina Ulrich, a member of VDOT's Hampton Roads Communications team and the moderator for tonight's session. At this time, for the sake of bandwidth, my camera is turned off. However, I will be turning my camera on while we're doing the Q&A session following the presentation. First and foremost, we would like to point out that we are new at hosting large meetings virtually. So we ask for everyone's patience and understanding as we apply new technologies and work through how to best conduct public meetings. Perhaps you just heard one of our technical glitches in the background. We find that some procedures need to be adjusted to improve the meeting experience moving forward. And as you hear, that sound has moved away. The meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the project site following the presentation. Tonight's agenda is as follows. We will review the public comment process, have a project overview including an HREL network overview, location map, purpose and process overview, scope and status, roadway, bridge, tolling and sound barriers, adjacent projects, stakeholders, property impacts, right-of-way, project status, our anticipated schedule. We'll conclude with question and comments, and our adjournment will be no later than 7:30 this evening. This project is fully funded by the Hampton Roads Transportation Accountability Commission, HRTAC. HRTAC funds the highest priority projects from Hampton Roads Transportation Funds that provides new capacity for congestion relief. At this time, I'd now like to take a minute to recognize HRTAC Director Kevin Page and other HRTPO staff, such as Rob Case. Kevin, allow me a second to unmute you. And Kevin, if you can, go ahead. Excellent. So sorry about that. It looks like that we don't have Kevin on quite yet, but we do have Rob Case. And so Rob, if just give me a second to unmute you, and we'd like to have a welcome from you this evening.
Can you hear me?
Yes, there is a little feedback, but if you could just maybe lower your volume there and we can hear you just fine.
How about now?
You sound great.
Okay, this is Rob Case from the Hampton Roads Transportation Planning Organization. And I just wanted to say that we, a year or two ago, did an analysis of the this hot lane network, compared it to the alternative, and my board selected it as the best way to ensure the movement of traffic in Hampton Roads. And so we're looking forward to the construction of this network.
Excellent, Rob. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to recognize any elected officials that have joined us this evening. We do have quite a lot of attendees signed in. And so at this time, you are able to unmute yourself if you're an elected official to recognize. Hearing none, I would like to recognize a special group that we have with us this evening. Hampton University government class is joining us. We have several students online this evening and several members that will be joining in person at our in-person public hearing tomorrow evening. I see a few of you online, so again, thank you for joining us. It's our pleasure to introduce you to public hearings and to help further educate you as well. At this time, everybody should be on mute, including all panelists. I'd like to recognize our project and engineering team at this time. We have Janet Hedrick, VDOT Project Manager, Peter Harlan with AECom and the staff from AECom online this evening, David Caudell, he's our VDOT Division Administrator for Tolling, Ryan Crisp with Right-of-Way, Ross Hudnall, the Senior Highway Noise Specialist, Queen Crittenden, VDOT's Civil Rights Manager, Jenny Salyers, VDOT Environmental Specialist, Bradley Weidenheimer from the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel Expansion Project, and myself, Nina Ulrich, VDOT Senior Communications Specialist, and assisting me this evening with questions is also Lindsay Denatolis. It takes many experts across many disciplines to plan for and complete any VDOT project, and we thank all of you for your hard work on this project so far and for joining us this evening. Given the unique circumstances of the COVID-19, along with our commitment to protecting public health during this national emergency, VDOT is conducting this virtual design public hearing as an option to the in-person public hearing. I would like to remind everybody on the call this evening, we are having an in-person public hearing tomorrow evening at the Y.H. Thomas Community Center from 4 to 7. I'd like to take a moment now to explain why and how VDOT conducts a public hearing. It has 4 essential purposes. First, to inform the public on the status of the planning of the project and to share their recommendations based on the design to date. Second, to describe the project so that those attending tonight can determine if the project will affect their lives and property. Third, to provide an opportunity to see information and express our views at this stage in the planning process. Last, this hearing is also used to develop a record of public views and participation to accompany recommendations for subsequent decisions. This virtual public hearing is being held in compliance with state laws. The recorded version of this hearing will be made available for the official public record. Tonight, you will see all of the information we will typically present during an in-person meeting, project information, schedule, and cost, including the process for submitting comments, as you see here. During the presentation, all phone participants will be muted. There is a Q&A box, not a chat box, but a Q&A box that is at the bottom right of your screen that you are encouraged to use this evening if you are joining us online. If you are joining us via phone and have questions, we ask that you dial *3 to raise your hand to alert us that you want to ask a question. WebEx will provide an automated response on how to unmute yourself. Allow for the opportunity to hear those directions. You will be unmuted at that time. Please state your name and your question fully. We will try to respond to as many questions as we can this evening, but those that were not answered can be sent by any of the alternative comment methods shown here and that will also be shown at the end of the meeting. As a reminder, any individual who does not abide by our ground rules or who submits anything inappropriate will be asked to leave or manually disconnected. If for some reason you get accidentally disconnected, please rejoin the meeting using the link provided. I would now like to take the opportunity to hand our meeting over to our project manager, Janet Hedrick, who will share information on the project. One quick note, as we go through the slides, I will be saying the slide number prior to Janet reading that slide, and that's so those following online are able to do so. If you would like to follow online, this PowerPoint can be found at virginia.org/64 Express Lanes Hampton. Also following the meeting, that website is where this recording will be housed. Janet?
Thank you, Nina.
Slide.
The Hampton Roads Express Lane. Oh, are you ready? Okay. The Hampton Roads Express Lanes Network, abbreviated HREL, will provide a safe and reliable travel option for motorists across the region, and it relieves congestion at key locations along the region's interstate network. The entire network will extend from Jefferson Avenue around exit 255 in Newport News to Bowers Hill in Chesapeake. Development of the network will involve a combination of converting existing HOV lanes and constructing additional express lanes on I-64. The entire network is expected to be complete in 2025. The network consists of multiple segments in various phases of design and construction, and today we're talking about the Hampton segment 4C.
Thank you, Janet. And before proceeding, we have been asked to give the group a reminder that this is the virtual public hearing for the I-64 Hampton Roads Express Lanes Hampton segment. If you are joining this meeting this evening thinking that this is the discussion about the Settlers Landing Road ramps or Mallory Street ramps, this is not that public hearing. We will not be touching on that topic at this time, but you can find more information on that public hearing information on the City of Hampton's website. Slide 11, Janet, thank you.
So this project in Hampton is on I-64 from 0.139 miles east of LaSalle Avenue to 0.379 miles east of Settlers Landing Road. The total project length is 2.4 miles. Our project location map shows this area in Hampton, and we've identified on the map the 6 bridges that are inside the project corridor. The project purpose is to provide a safe and more reliable travel option for motorists across the region and to relieve congestion at key locations along Interstate 64. Express lanes can improve travel time and reliability by providing single occupancy vehicles an option during peak travel times when congestion is the highest. General purpose lanes will remain free to all users. Carpooling is encouraged by making the express lanes free for high occupancy vehicles. And the Hampton Roads Express Lane network provides seamless connectivity between the existing express lane network lane segments of the I-64 in the Hampton Roads region. Project improvements include converting the 3 existing eastbound and westbound general purpose lanes into 2 express lanes and 2 general purpose lanes. The project will widen I-64 and repave the existing lanes with an additional 12-foot wide travel lane in each direction from LaSalle Avenue to Settlers Landing Road. This section of interstate includes the 6 mainline bridges, 1 pedestrian underpass, and 1 triple 48-inch reinforced concrete pipe section carrying Brights Creek beneath I-64. The eastbound Hampton River bridges will be replaced, and the westbound Hampton River Bridge will be widened and rehabilitated. This project will involve a change and/or break in limited access control along the interstate. PDOT has determined that the use of design-build contracting will expedite the project delivery. The design builder will be able to perform final design, right-of-way acquisition, utility relocation, and some construction activities concurrently. This project also includes drainage improvements, stormwater management facilities, noise barrier walls, sign structure replacements, retaining walls, and utility relocations.
We are currently on slide number 16, titled Project Overview Roadway.
The project length is 2.4 miles from LaSalle to Settlers Landing. We will convert the 3 existing eastbound and westbound general purpose lanes into 2 express lanes and 2 general purpose lanes as shown on the graphic. They will be separated by a 3-foot buffer. The proposed lanes will be shifted towards the median. This limits the right-of-way required to construct the project, also allows us to avoid impacts on interchanges and other existing facilities. We'll also be using retaining walls to minimize impacts along the corridor, and will realign interstate ramps as necessary to tie into the new lanes. Let's start looking at our bridges. We're going to replace the eastbound Hampton River bridges, and we will rehabilitate and widen the westbound Hampton River Bridge. We're also going to rehabilitate the I-64 bridge that goes over Hrbt Road, and we're going to widen and rehabilitate the bridge over King Street. we're going to widen and rehabilitate the westbound portion of the bridge over Settlers Landing Road and rehabilitate the eastbound portion of the bridge over Settlers Landing Road. As part of the Hampton Roads Express Lane network, one toll point is included in the Segment 4C project. The expected location of this toll point is at the eastern end of the project, near the tie-in with the I-64 Hrbt expansion project near Mallory Street. Several existing sound barriers are located within the project limit, and those barriers will be replaced. Approximately 2 miles of new sound barriers are included in the project. This is pending the final design and noise analysis that will be performed by the design build team based on their project design. The preliminary noise analysis based on our current proof of concept design is nearly complete, and anticipated sound barriers for this design are shown in the public hearing plans. The eastern termini of this project ties into the I-64 Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel expansion project that's currently under construction. Both projects will be under construction at the same time with similar construction completion dates, and this will require extensive coordination between these two projects. Coordination with the I-64 Hrbt expansion project will continue through the procurement and construction phases. The western termini of the I-64 Segment 4C project ties into the I-64 Segment 4A project, which is the I-64 HREL Newport News segment. We have a lot of stakeholders in this corridor. Some of the major stakeholders are the Hampton National Cemetery, Pasture Point Historic District, and Hampton University. These stakeholders will have no right-of-way impacts on their properties. Also, we have the Woodlands Golf Course, the City of Hampton, and the railroads.
We are currently on slide number 23, property impacts.
Right-of-way and/or easements will be acquired along the eastbound and westbound directions, with approximately 54 parcels impacted. No permanent right-of-way impacts are anticipated outside of what is shown on the public hearing plans. The number of impacted parcels depends on the final design of drainage ditches, roadway embankments, retaining walls, noise barrier walls, and potential utility relocations. To provide uniform and equitable treatment for persons affected by a project, Congress passed the Uniform Relocations Assistant and Real Property Acquisition Policies Act of 1970 and amended it in 1987. This law, called the Uniform Act, is the foundation for the information discussed in the brochure seen on this slide. You can get a copy of the brochure from a VDOT right-of-way specialist or at our public hearing that will be held tomorrow. VDOT respects these fundamental rights and is committed to treating all customers with fairness and respect. The delivery method for this project will be design build. The procurement type is the two-phase best value. Funding for the project is from Hrbt, and the project is fully funded for preliminary engineering, right-of-way, and construction phases. The project is treated as federally eligible. The estimated total project cost is $429.8 million. We expect to release this design build request for proposals in the next 2 months or so. We will award the design build project in the summer of next year and begin construction in the summer to fall of next year, 2022. The construction end date is in the winter of 2025.
Thank you, Janet, for that very informative presentation. There was a lot of information that we covered. And again, as a reminder, the information can be found online. This concludes the formal presentation of tonight's I-64 Hampton Roads Express Lanes Hampton Segment Project presentation. We will now take a look at ways that we can submit comments online. Comments must be received or postmarked within 10 days after the virtual design public hearing by October 3rd. We encourage you to provide your feedback in the various ways by emailing Janet Hedrick at vdot.virginia.gov, by leaving a voicemail at the number provided, mailing directly here to our VDOT office in Suffolk, or by calling to set up an appointment. All questions and comments shared this evening will be recorded and will be included in the official public hearing transcript. For those joining us via phone this evening, again, I restate the directions of please press *3 to unmute yourself. Wait for the automatic WebEx directions to be announced. Follow the instructions and state your name and question. For the questions that have come in to our Q&A box, I will read the person's name and the question, and we will have a panelist answer that. All information following this meeting can be found at 64expresslanes.org, in addition to virginia.org/64expresslanes Hampton. At this time, if you could just give me 15 seconds to pull up my chat box, as we do have a few questions that have been coming in this evening. I will be calling on user that begins telephone number 804-386. You're unmuted.
Yes, good afternoon. This is Kevin Page at Hrbt. Sorry I was unable to unmute earlier, but wanted to welcome everyone to the public hearing this evening. Not the last and not the first of public hearings we have to try to involve the region's citizenry on the affected and yet to be seen celebrated Hampton Roads Express Lanes network throughout the entire corridor of the I-64. It's been a real pleasure at Hrbt as a regional body in control of the funding of this project effort that we're talking about tonight, to have joined forces with the Virginia Department of Transportation through our master tolling agreement to develop the Hampton Roads Express Lanes network, as you see on the maps here that have been shared with you tonight. It's a great opportunity for us in the region because it's your citizens' dollars of the region that are paying for this project, and also significant portions of the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel project all the way around to High Rise Bridge. All of this will be connected as part of the Hampton Roads Express Lanes network, as part of the vision that's been brought forward in collaboration with the federal planning partner, the Hampton Roads Transportation Planning Organization, as to how we will develop and provide a reliable transportation choice through the region for the 44 miles. And hopefully, as we move forward, the network will expand further into the remaining loop of the 64-664 corridor. So thank you for the opportunity to speak. Welcome tonight. I'm here to listen attentively to public comments as we move forward with this. The segment 4C is one of many segments of the corridor, as you've seen, and we have a goal to have all of this construction activity completed for the day one of operations of the new Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel system. So again, it's we're going to have a little bit of construction interruption through the region. I like to say to guests that come to the region that be prepared to see Hampton Roads' new perennial flower. We call it the Highway Construction Cone Flower, and it only grows on Hrt's projects that VDOT is developing with us in the region. So thank you again, and look forward to hearing your comments.
Kevin, thank you very much. We appreciate that. And if you wanted to share anything as we wrap up the meeting this evening too, then just let us know. So, but thank you. We glad you're joined, and thank you for sharing that. We're going to have a question now from Sherry Thurrott. I'd like to take the opportunity now to apologize to anyone for mispronouncing your name. We have Sherry Thurrott, and she is asking, Janet, will it be necessary to temporarily close East Pembroke Avenue where it passes under the I-64 bridge that is scheduled for replacement?
That's a good question. And so we are going, the Hampton River Bridge goes over Pembroke Avenue. And while we're doing that bridge work, we will need to do single lane alternating traffic with flagging and or temporary signal with intermittent closures overnight to perform the bridge work on the interstate at night. So during the day, I-64 will continue to have 2 lanes in each direction. So for us to add beams and to do some of our repairs, we're going to need to do some of those closures at night. And all of our lane closures will be advertised well throughout the corridor to inform the public when they're being planned, to let you know, to plan around those activities at night. But it will not ever be, it won't be closed for an extended amount of time ever.
Thank you, Janet. We have a question now from Donald Pearson. You mentioned no impact to Pasture Point. I have a property on Cooper Street at the edge of Pasture Point and received a letter in the mail stating that I had a property within the limits and would be right-of-way affected. I am not considered part of Pasture Point. Question mark. And so, Janet, I don't know if you want to handle that right-of-way question regarding Pasture Point, or if we want to have Ryan handle that.
I can handle that question. So when we're doing our survey and gathering preliminary information along the corridor, we did reach out to quite a few property owners, and they received letters. And these are the owners, everyone that is pretty much near the interstate received letters. We were doing sound studies and different investigations. So what we meant by no impacts Pasture Point is that all of the properties that are considered part of the Pasture Point Historic District, we're not acquiring any right-of-way from any of those properties. So they will not be directly impacted.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Janet. We have a question now from Kelly Alvord. If there are barriers between the general purpose lanes and the express lanes, how many access points and where will the traffic be able to enter and exit the express lanes, both eastbound and westbound along the Hampton segment?
The 3-foot buffer between the general purpose lanes and the express lanes. Right now, we're considering putting flexible post delineators in between that area. And that's for safety, just to notify the public that not to cross, and it will be against the law to cross in those areas that are marked with that 3-foot buffer. To enter the express lanes, going eastbound, you'll be able to enter the express lanes just west of the Hampton River Bridge. And then the toll point will register, and you'll see signs telling you what the cost will be. And when you get to Mallory Street, that toll point will register you in. And that's going eastbound. When you're going westbound, you'll be exiting the toll network. And there you'll be able to exit just west of Settlers Landing, and then after that you can enter or exit into the express lane for the remainder of the project limits going westbound.
Thank you for that, Janet. Our next question is from Katrina Bailey, and Katrina asks, will the toll point at the Hrbt be for all lanes or only express lanes?
The toll point at the Hrbt is going to register just those persons who are in the express lanes. The general purpose lanes are always a free option for the traveling public. They'll always be free.
Thank you. We have a question from Jeff. Jeff asks, will River Street be blocked at any point during the construction? I live off of River Street and I'm on the River Street Park Advisory Committee.
So construction will require a long-term reduction to a single lane alternating traffic with flagging and/or a temporary signal on River Street. And intermittent closures will take place at night for the overhead bridge work.
Thank you. Jeff continues with another question. Will the high voltage power poles need to be moved?
The project design was successful in being able to put in the new eastbound Hampton River bridges, which are parallel to those high power transmission lines that run along the eastbound lanes, without impacting the high power transmission lines. So there are no impacts to that line. We met with Virginia Dominion Power and that has all been determined with the proof of concept design. So that was money and time saving those don't have to be relocated for the project development.
Thank you. And his third part to wrap up the question is, what part of River Street Park will be left after construction?
The part of River Street Park that will remain after construction is the pieces of River Street Park that are outside of the VDOT right of way. So that's what is on the south end of River Street Park along the roadway where the benches are, and the decorative gates and fencing along River Street will remain.
Thank you, Janet, and for Jeff for your thorough questions there. I would like to remind all of the folks joining us on the phone this evening that you can also follow along on the PowerPoint presentation online with us, and also ask to be unmuted to ask a question verbally. I see that we now have a question from Kendall. Kendall asks, when can property owners expect to hear if properties or how much of their property will need to be taken?
Once the project design is determined by the design builder, then the design builder will do investigations, title reports, appraisals, and those types of that type of work before that they approach a property owner in order to get a temporary construction easement or to acquire some right of way for the project. And we expect that to happen no sooner than about 8 months into NTP. So it would be in early 2023 that a property owner might expect to be approached by VDOT in regards to this project. And it could be anywhere from that period in early 2023 till late 2023.
Excellent, thank you. And for those property owners this evening online or on the phone and would like to receive a copy of the right-of-way booklet, that is also found online. We have another question from Carmen Lozada Otero. Will the parking at River Street remain?
The parking at River Street, let's see, did we remove that? I believe that what is there is currently shown to remain, but I don't think that you're going to be allowed to park there. There are issues with that parking area. So I think that might still need to be determined as we coordinate with the city how the final configuration of that's going to be. And I may need to follow up with you on that question. You know, Peter Harlan is on the line, and I know he knows the answer to that. So do you think we could get Peter to chime in and help me out here?
Absolutely. Peter, you're unmuted.
Hey, good evening, everyone. So Janet, based on our conceptual layout, the parking will not be impacted, but yes, you're right in your conversations with the city with those issues related to that current parking location.
Thanks, Peter.
Yep.
I do have another question regarding Cooper Street area. This question is also from Jeff. How will emergency vehicles be able to access River Street and Cooper Street, etc., the area if there is an intermittent closure?
The intermittent closures that we're talking about would be at night, and should there be an emergency in advance of the closures, VDOT would coordinate with fire and police to let them know what we're planning to do. And should they need to get out of the way because of an event and for safety, they would be able, the police and fire would be able to communicate with the contractor to help them to get out of the way for those emergency vehicles if necessary.
Excellent, thank you. Before we continue to read the online chat questions, I'd again like to take the opportunity to remind the folks that have joined us on the phone this evening that you too can ask questions. Just press *3. We can unmute you so you can share your question verbally. We do have another question regarding the Western Connection. This is from Kelly Alvord. What is the timeline for the Western Connection point to the Newport News segment? Will that be going on and or finished at the same time as this Hampton segment and the Hrbt segment?
So the Western segment is what we're calling the segment 4A, 4B and Newport News segment. And that one is planning to begin construction around the summer of 2023. And so that construction will last from summer of 2023 to the winter of 2025. So construction will overlap with the construction of this project.
Excellent. And we would also like to remind everybody on the phone this evening that you do have an opportunity to see the public hearing plans by calling Janet directly. And we've also got them posted at several locations. So again, if you're interested in seeing the public hearing plans, to please contact us. We have one other question regarding Pasture Point. When will construction in that area start? And that is from Jeff.
We expect construction to begin in the fall of 2023, late summer to fall of 2022. NTP will be issued in June of 2022. And it takes a while for the contractor to develop his design and get approval to start beginning construction activities. But once he gets approval, the plans are approved, they will be released for construction. And we expect that to happen in the summer to the late summer to the fall of 2022.
Excellent, thank you. We have another question from Donald Pearson. Donald asks, as to property assessments, the City of Hampton has started devaluating tax assessments. I assume it is so VDOT will be able to offer lower amounts of payment for the property. Will the lower tax assessments affect amounts offered to landowners, or is your assessment done by unbiased appraisers?
So Nina, can we pull in Ryan Crisp to help with that question, our right-of-way specialist?
Yes, thank you. Ryan, you're unmuted.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this public hearing tonight. I'll be managing the right-of-way for this project as we move along. In terms of the question about the lower tax assessments for the city of Hampton, VDOT and the consultant will utilize unbiased appraisers from the community that are approved for our panel in determining those property values. We will note the assessments in the appraisal, but they will not be determining the values that we'll base our compensation upon, to answer your question.
Thank you for that, Ryan. We have another question from Carmen Lozada Otero. What are the probable plans for the remaining part of River Street? What is allowed there, being that it is so close to the interstate?
So we're speaking of the River Street Park, and the current plan that is in our project contract, the way that we're building it, is that the parts of River Street Park that are under the I-64 bridges will be removed before construction starts. And this is for the safety of the public, because we're going to be having equipment and moving equipment, and it's not a place for the public to be gathering. So the entire River Street Park is expected to close around that late summer to early fall of 2022. And it will remain closed until the end of 2025. What's going to remain is the front part of the park that is not inside VDOT right of way. And where the park was, our plan is to fence that area and to do a little bit of landscaping and to put in stone inside of the fenced area so that it will remain pleasant. You know, the aesthetics of the park area will still look good after after the project's done, but it will not be a park unless the city of Hampton decides that they would like to put the park back under the Hampton River bridges. And should the city of Hampton decide that that's what they would like to do, they would obtain a park permit, and they would be allowed to put their park back under the Hampton River bridges, with the knowledge that the next time VDOT comes through and we have to replace our bridges, which is typically, they have about a 50-year life. So when we need to come back and replace the bridges, or in 10 to 20 years when we need to do maintenance, the city of Hampton would need to pull out part infrastructure so that it doesn't get damaged, and allow us to do that work. And then they would need to put it back when we're done if they wanted to.
Thank you for that, Janet. We have a question from Kelly Alvord, and Kelly asks, do you anticipate this construction to impact the boating or kayak traffic along the Hampton River?
We have looked into that, and what we're planning to do is to keep a small navigable channel throughout construction in the Hampton River for those types of boating activities.
Thank you. And a follow-up question, also from Kelly. Do you anticipate significant work to be required at night that may impact the nearby residents with construction sound? I live in downtown Hampton and can regularly hear general traffic noise from 64 over the Hampton River because of how the sound carries.
So Nina, for this question, can we pull in Ross Hudnall, our noise specialist?
Absolutely. Thank you. Ross, you're unmuted.
Yes, I anticipate that there will be some construction occurring in the evening hours between 10 and 6 a.m. We have to take into consideration the amount of traffic during the day will prohibit major construction activities in areas, particularly around the bridge or around the bridges. And we do have construction noise requirements for our contractors. They'll be required to keep noise levels at the nearest edge of the perimeter of the construction limits under 80 decibels. If they exceed this, or if there's concern that there are exceedances, there's a potential that VDOT would step in and conduct some construction-related noise monitoring to ensure that they are in conformance with the requirements. There are other options as well for managing some of that noise, such as noise abatement screening or noise dampening curtains that can be hung up over particularly loud equipment or hung around generators. But there will be a bit of construction noise in the corridor in the evening hours periodically.
Thank you, Ross. We have another question from Jeff. Jeff asks, when will the westbound portion of the construction begin?
The westbound portion of the construction on I-64 may begin as early as the late summer to fall of 2022. It is the contractor's means and methods to perform the construction activities as he sees fit. He will develop a critical path of construction activities to meet his construction completion deadline, which is December 2025. And but I do anticipate that in late 2022, construction along I-64 will begin in the eastbound and westbound.
Excellent. Thank you for that. We continue to see, while we're waiting for more questions to be added to the chat box, just wanted to remind everybody on the phone this evening that you can press *3 to request unmute and verbally ask your own question. For those of you that are not comfortable asking your question online or via phone, you are welcome to email us following the presentation and sharing any comments to be included in the public record no later than October 3rd. While we're waiting on a couple of additional questions here, we'd like to take the opportunity to point out that we've got the project location map there, that all the areas that Janet has referenced this evening. We'll take another question from the chat and then we'll pause the presentation and take a look at the website. Sherry Thurrott asks, what is being done to mitigate the environmental impacts on the Hampton River and surrounding waterways?
So Nina, for that question, can we please pull in our environmental specialist, Jenny Salyers?
Thank you. Jenny, you're unmuted.
Good evening. The mitigation measures are usually coordinated with the agencies, the regulatory agencies, the Army Corps of Engineers, the Virginia Marine Resources Commission, and the Department of Environmental Quality. As a part of the project, anytime we impact waters of the U.S., we have to coordinate with those agencies, and they have to agree to the mitigation measures the project yet of applying for the permit. That would be done under the design build contract, but preliminarily we have those impacts identified in the environmental document, which is on the website. If you'd like to go take a look at that, you can. So the permitting would also, we'd have to do at least a 2-to-1. Sometimes it's more depending on the quality of the area of wetlands that we're determining. But we would do at least a 2-to-1 compensation for the impacts to anything that we did have to impact during the project. But our designers, by nature, through hydraulics and other means, have requirements that we have to put in place on every construction project that helps to minimize those impacts. So from our own design standards and the regulatory impact comments that we receive from the regulatory agencies, we have to employ the maximum extent of mitigation measures to avoid and minimize the impacts.
Thank you, Jenny. We appreciate that. And thank you, Janet. We'd like to remind everybody this evening that for those that are submitting questions via phone or online, but not via our website, to go and visit our page, 64expresslanes.org, also virginia.org/64expresslanes, to not only learn more information about the entire Hampton Roads Express Lanes network, but specifically tonight about the Hampton segment. You can submit that comment form and also that demographic survey, which greatly helps VDOT to better prepare for our public meetings in the future. We have a question from Jeff this evening. If there is an accident in the free lanes if there is an accident in the free lanes that results in a stoppage of traffic, will the toll lanes be made available free of charge?
So if there's an accident in the general purpose lanes and those lanes are blocked from that in the general purpose lanes and those lanes are blocked, what state police will do when they arrive on the scene is they will remove the barrier that is in between the general purpose and the hot lanes as needed and divert traffic around, or try to divert them along the outside shoulder if they can. But the state police would make the decision as to what diversion would be used, but they can certainly divert traffic from the general purpose lanes into the hot lanes and then loop them around, and vice versa.
Thank you, Janet. We have a question from Carmen. Carmen asks, will the sound barrier look like the one on 64 towards Williamsburg? And can we get more information on this, including the height, how it will impact our creek? And they are in the corner home on Creek Avenue near I-64.
So Nina, can we go back to Ross Hudnall, our noise specialist?
Thank you, Ross.
Our noise barriers for this project, we are still working on the aesthetics. They'll be consistent with those proposed for Hrbt. We're still working through some coordination to nail down the exact aesthetics. However, they will most likely look more similar to those in I-64 segment 1, closer to Denby Boulevard, with the dry stack finish and the maritime medallions. We do have several in the maritime theme set of our aesthetics that include the starfish, sand dollars, and frigates, and some shells. So those are the most likely aesthetics that we'll be seeing for these barriers. They won't be the brick finish that you see up in the Queens Creek area near I-64 segment 3. So these will be more like the segment 1 again on I-64. And as for the heights, we're going to have varying heights throughout the each of the different barriers that are being evaluated. Barrier heights are going to be dependent on the topography of the noise sensitive receptors on the residential sides or the noise sensitive sides of the roadways in relation to the vertical and horizontal alignments of the interstate. Most of the barriers will range from 10 to about 22 feet tall in this corridor. We plan to incorporate transparent barriers on the Hampton roads, or excuse me, the Hampton River bridges that will include a black monofilament inside that will not only work on fragmentation retention should they be struck by a vehicle, but also they make the panels a little bit more visible to birds and would reduce the number of bird strikes on those barriers.
Thank you, Ross. As a reminder, we just want to remind everybody that you can call Janet to see the public hearing plans. They're also housed at our VDOT Williamsburg Residency Office, as well as the City of Hampton. We have another question from Lloyd this evening. Lloyd says, Westbound starts the summer fall 2022 to 2025. When will eastbound construction happen? And will the traffic be rerouted to I-64? Or what happens with summer traffic routing through the area? Does all traffic merge to one bridge at a time?
So construction on eastbound and westbound I-64 happens concurrently pretty much throughout the life of the project. Typically what happens, the contractor will come in and start shoulder strengthening on the outside of the corridor, eastbound and westbound, and then he will put in his construction work zone in the median area while traffic is diverted to those outside lanes. So throughout construction, we will retain 2 lanes of traffic in each direction throughout. That's consistent. The only time when that might change is for nighttime work on occasion, but we really don't even anticipate needing to detour traffic or any of that type of work during the night much. It mostly would be like a 1-lane closure at night. So as we're working throughout the corridor, eastbound and westbound, we will be constantly just monitoring the traffic. We're going to be having our public affairs group and the contractors public affairs and VDOT public affairs and the whole Hampton Roads Express Lanes Network group will be coordinating with the public to inform them about our construction work zones, about any kind of special closures that we're planning to do outside of, reducing the interstate down to 2 lanes in each direction throughout construction. So of course, the capacity of the interstate is being reduced some during the construction phase, and that's so that we can have an area so that we can get the work done and build the road. So that reduction in capacity is going to create additional congestion in this corridor from what we currently see today. So what our plan is to inform the public to try to avoid this area. So if you're coming from Richmond down to the peninsula during the construction of this project, you'll probably be advised to take 664 to go that way and avoid this construction work zone area due to the congestion, and especially during your peak hours in the morning and in the evening. I believe I answered that question. please follow up with me if there's still more that you'd like to know about that.
Thank you, Janet. We have another question regarding sound barriers. Currently, there are no sound barriers on eastbound 64 near Pasture Point. Will this side get sound barriers? And thank you. I know we have more than one Jeff online this evening, but thank you again, Jeff.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and jump back in on this one. We did find a barrier to be feasible and reasonable to meet our criteria for recommendation for construction. At this point, again, it'll be reassessed in final design. But however, at this point, we do have a barrier proposed from about 400 feet east of King Street that runs all the way across the Hampton River bridges to just east of the Pools Grant community. This barrier will range in height from about 10 to 20 feet, depending on the barrier's location relative to the receptors.
Thank you, Ross. We'd like to remind all of our attendees on the phone this evening that if you wish to ask your question verbally, to just press *3 and we'll be notified. At this time, we have answered all of the questions in our Q&A box. I do want to give a couple of more minutes and opportunity for anybody that might have any last-minute questions. And also give our panelists an opportunity if there's anything that they would like to review in finality this evening before we conclude our formal presentation. We'd like to remind everybody to follow us at I-64expresslanes.org to read more information about Hampton, the segment. Tonight, we have our virtual public hearing that will be concluding shortly. And then tomorrow evening, we have our in-person public hearing, September 23rd from 4 to 7 at the Y.H. Thomas Community Center there in Hampton. You'll have an opportunity in person tomorrow evening should you want to join us to meet our VDOT team in person and to also see our project boards. Because of the amount of bandwidth we're using this evening on WebEx platform, I encourage you to directly go to the website and view the video on the news and updates page. When playing the video on a large group such as this, it does have some technology glitches, so we're choosing not to play it directly. But please, I encourage you to go to 64expresslanes.org to our news and updates page for this amazing 3-minute video that really walks you through the express lanes and answers a lot of the questions that we've covered this evening. We also encourage you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Nextdoor for all of our traffic, project, and construction updates. At this time, I am going to do a last round call for questions and also give a chance for any of our HRTAC or HRTPO or VDOT staff to chime in during the end of the presentation. I see that we have no further questions in the chat. I wanted to thank you all at this time for attending our virtual design public meeting. This has been for the I-64 Hampton Roads Express Lanes, Hampton Segment 4C. Oh, thank you. I do see 2 more questions coming in. I apologize. If just 1 second and we can pull those up. We have a question from somebody by the name of Tigist. How will pedestrians be able to maneuver during construction?
So the pedestrian activity would be impacted possibly on the secondary roads where the interstate goes over, really at our bridge areas where we will be doing work. It's not a safe area for pedestrians. So I'm not sure where pedestrians are going to be along these corridors. I know over near the River Street part, you would still be able to walk through there, I believe, during construction. If it's unsafe, the contractor would block the area, but I do believe that they would leave an access for pedestrians or provide a detour if needed.
Thank you, Janet. Appreciate you answering that. We have a question from Donald. The barrier behind Cooper Street was in an accident, and will it be fixed before construction?
So barrier maintenance is performed by VDOT, and not sure about that barrier, about it being struck, or what the plan is to repair the barrier. If you want to find that information out soon, I would call 1-800-4-ROADS, and you could put your question in and they would get back with you and tell you when they plan to fix that noise barrier. As part of this project, our contractor won't be fixing that noise barrier for this damage that's currently done. That would be performed by VDOT. And as I said during the presentation, the existing barrier along the interstate that is will be replaced. Most of the existing barrier along the interstate has been there for quite a while and it's in need of repair. So it will be removed and replaced when we go through and we put in the new noise barrier along the corridor.
Excellent. Thank you, Janet. As we see that we have no more hands raised by our participants on our phone and that we have no questions in our Q&A box, we are going to conclude the presentation this evening. As mentioned, we encourage you to follow VDOT online on Facebook, Twitter, and Nextdoor. Thank you for watching and participating in this very important virtual design public hearing for the Hampton Roads Express Lanes Segment 4C. For those, thank you. Thank you, attendees. We have, I've just received a message. We've got one last question that we're going to answer this evening, and then that will conclude that. Thank you for allowing us one more question here. The question is from Lloyd. How can 2 lanes stay open when the eastbound bridges will be replaced?
That's a great question, Lloyd. So we have spent a lot of time developing a conceptual plan to be able to perform that. So what the plan is to widen the westbound Hampton River bridges to the outside, and then divert and then push those westbound lanes to the outside and divert the eastbound lanes onto the westbound Hampton River Bridge. So we're going to widen it enough to have those 4 lanes of traffic across it during our construction of the eastbound Hampton River bridges.
Thank you, Janet. And the follow-up question is, how will this project affect Hampton University traffic?
I believe that the main impacts to Hampton University traffic, besides what the additional congestion that we expect during the peak hours, especially, in the corridor, are on Settlers Landing Road, where we are doing the bridge work. So in that area, we will be maintaining 1 through street in each direction on Settlers Landing Road. And we will also be maintaining those turns onto the I-64 on-ramps in those turn lanes on Settlers Landing Road. So we anticipate that we will be using state police and other ways to help to make sure that all of those traffic maneuvers are done safely throughout the course of construction.
Thank you, Janet. We have another question from Emmanuel. How will this project affect the Emancipation Oak?
We have performed a study of the Emancipation Oak in conjunction with Hampton University and have determined the area of impact of the Emancipation Oak. And what we have done with our project design and what we put into this project contract is there are no impacts whatsoever to the Emancipation Oak or the loblolly pines that help to protect the Emancipation Oak that are to the north of the oak over in our right near the interstate there. So we do have monitors that will be in place throughout the entirety of the construction of this project to ensure that the safety of the Emancipation Oak is maintained. So if there's any point at any time where it could possibly be at risk, our contractor will know and he will immediately stop. But we have also, on the Settlers Landing bridges, that's why we're not widening the eastbound Settlers Landing bridge, because that widening takes you closer to the oak. And so there'll be no construction vibration on that side of the bridge, which could possibly transfer over into the Emancipation Oak area. And then for the westbound bridge where we are doing widening, the contractor will drill those piles and not drive them in to reduce vibrations. And it's been determined by our team of engineers that vibration activities from the planned construction activities that we have will not impact the Emancipation Oak.
Thank you for that, Janet. And we are having more questions come in, so we're going to just continue to answer them. Carmen asks, you mentioned westbound will be widened to the outside. Does that mean the bridge will not be joined in the middle?
Can we get Peter Harlan on? Because I can't recall, but I don't think that the eastbound and westbound Hampton River bridges are joined in the middle right now.
No problem. Thanks, Janet. Yes, there will be a gap between the replaced eastbound bridge and the existing widened westbound bridge over the Hampton River. This is through some iterations that we looked at and different alternatives related to the constructability and other existing features, including the high voltage transmission lines to the south of 64. But yes, there will be a gap between those two bridges. Thanks.
Thank you. We have another question that's coming in at this time. Anonymous question, when do you estimate construction to be complete?
Our construction completion date is December 19, 2025.
Excellent. Thank you. Wanted to see if anyone on the phone or online this evening has any additional questions to ask. We're just going to give it a couple of minutes while folks continue to review the PowerPoint information and ask questions on the phone or online. Again, if you don't have an opportunity to ask your question directly this evening or have questions after our presentation, we welcome your questions by contacting us there on the slide on the screen. We welcome any comments for the public record to be included no later than October 3rd. Just wanted to give everybody, I see that we're a couple of folks are dropping offline with us now, but for those that are still online, just want to give you a last chance to ask questions this evening. For those on the line, I would like to remind you that we do have our in-person public hearing tomorrow evening from 4 to 7 at the Y.H. Thomas Community Center in Hampton. Also, this evening, Janet mentioned the Newport News segment. We will be having the Newport News segment public hearing virtually next Wednesday evening at 5:30 on the 29th and in person on the 30th, again from 4 to 7 at the Y.H. Thomas Community Center there in Hampton. If you go to our news and updates page, you can continue to watch the video and also stay abreast of project updates. Included there now is a segment 2 Greenbrier update from the Chesapeake segment. And as more information becomes available on the Hampton segment, we will send out project updates that as well. We encourage you to express your interest by signing up on our news and updates page to receive information not only on the Hampton segment, but for the entire Hampton Roads Express Lanes network. For those still on the line with us this evening, I'm giving one last call for questions. And a last call for the panelists. If there's any information that you would like to share regarding your area of expertise with those on the line this evening.
Good afternoon, Nina. This is Queen.
Good afternoon, Queen Crittenden, our Civil Rights Manager with VDOT. We love to hear from you this evening.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank those that completed or will complete the demographic survey mentioned earlier. This survey helps VDOT to collect responses to evaluate our access to public hearings for those in our community. The disclosure as you complete the information is strictly voluntary and anonymous. And so we just wanted to thank you. Your information is helpful as we plan and how we host our public hearings to ensure there is access to the information that we have to offer our community. So thank you. And I appreciate, Nina, you sharing that information with the community as well.
Thank you, Queen. We appreciate that. And thank you to everyone from VDOT for joining us this evening, contractors and consultants, stakeholders, and most importantly, everyone on the line who is truly interested in the Hampton segment of the I-64 Hampton Roads Express Lanes network. Thank you again for joining us this evening. Again, we welcome your comments through October 3rd to be included in the public record. Visit us online at 64expresslanes.org. Contact Janet Hedrick or myself directly at the contact information on the slides. And we hope everyone has a great evening. Thank you again for joining us. This meeting officially adjourns at 6:50.